Welcome to Psychology the Daf. We are in Gemara Pesachim, Daf Mem Hey, and we're going to look at the idea today of what is better to know the basics or to have analytical ability and to be able to look deeply into something. Which comes first? So Rav Yosef in today's Gemara makes an interesting exclamation, which translates approximately to something like, have the Tanoim been removed from the world? Meaning, why is it not possible to attribute the contradiction to two different Tana's opinions? And this unique phrase occurs only 5 times in Shas and always coming from Rav Yosef. We should wonder what might be unique about Rav Yosef that he had a habit of using this phrase. So in passing, the Pnei Yeshua in Kedushin Daf Tes Vav Amud Aleph draws a connection between this speech pattern of Rav Yosef and the fact that he was known as a Sinai, a living Mount Sinai, which is to say, in the Gemara's idiom, he was a sage who had encyclopedic knowledge of the Brises and Mishnahs and all the teachings. It's also significant to note that Rav Yosef was blind. We find that in Gemara Kedushin Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, and we might surmise that his blindness, like most challenges in life, can and were turned into an asset, and that he had to sharpen his memory without having the luxury of visual input and data retrieval. The Gemara in Brachos on Daf Samach Daled discusses in depth the two qualities of sagacity, which is either being a Sinai, that is somebody who was baki in all the teachings, versus what they call an Oker Harim, an uprooter of mountains. Now, the phrase that the Gemara chose, uprooter of mountains, is a double entendre, meaning it's signifying, number one, that the analytic and pilpulistic abilities are so powerful they can overturn and uproot previously held opinions. But also, it uses the phrase uprooter of mountains. Now, Sinai was a mountain, so it means that the power of the analytical mind, of the pilpulistic mind, can actually uproot and overpower what the Sinai, what the person who has Bekias, knows. Paradoxically, even though this really implies, by the Gemara's own choice of phrase, that an Oker Harim is more powerful, it's still, the Gemara still concludes over there in Brachos that a Sinai is more powerful, a Mount Sinai, someone who has Bekias. And that is that basic knowledge is more important than analytic ability, as one can't keep the Torah without being facile in the core halachas. So maybe in some sense it is more powerful to be an Oker Harim, but the essential quality of being a Sinai is more important. Now, one of the strongest arguments in being a Sinai we find by the Maharal in Nesivas Olam, Nesif HaTorah Hey, and I will give my English translation of what he says, which is, what about the boys of young years? If they had memorized study from their youth, there's no doubt that they would be accustomed and they'd know several Masechtas by the time they got married. Nowadays, they have nothing in their hands, and all for the sake of learning Tosfos, which means literally addition. And that is, isn't it better to understand the basic Gemara first? Why are we in this state? Because the Tosfos was printed in the Gemara. If the rulings of the Rush and other halachic material were printed in the Gemara, then everyone would learn halacha, even the little boys. We must ask, why is it assumed that the advanced and the tyro study the same matters? And if we instruct a boy's father that his son should learn halacha, he will not yet learn the Tosfos. The father is going to feel terrible. He's going to feel as if he's not teaching his son anything at all. Why? Because the father only wants prestige, but not substance.